So the first step in making your mittens is figuring out your motif. So there's lots and lots of designs that you could do. These are just 2 sample ones that I have. So pre-planning that and how many colors are in your design. Both of these have 3 different color of beads to use. The supplies that you're gonna need are your beads. And so these are quite small, they're size 10. I got them from Beads and Plenty More, but you can get them all sorts of places. I have a piece of like felt so that my beads won't roll off my table, it's easier to manage. A pair of scissors. You would want to get beading hand needles, okay? And so that these are meant for size 10 beads, so they fit through the eye. Some beading thread, and then I have a marking pen, a tape measure, and then my actual top of my mitt. So that is what you will need to get started. So at the start, you're going to want to find the middle of your glove and about 2 inches down and put a dot. The easiest way that I do this is I fold my top mitt. I'm just working with a fake suede look-alike. I do recommend the real deal. So if you put your mitten in half, and then you take your tape measure and you just measure down 2 inches from the top of your mitt and make a little dot there using your fabric marker. This will disappear with heat, but that keeps you landmarked on where the top of your motif will start. I also like to give myself a few little ticky lines going down to keep my actual image straight and not starting to sway. So again, putting your glove in half lengthwise like this, and then just using your fabric marker to kind of give yourself a few extra ticks along there so that you can stay centered as you start to bead. For this demo, I'm going to do this sort of diamond motif. So I have put some beads out on my felt so they won't roll in my 3 colors that I'll be using. I'm going to start with my sort of dark green here. I have threaded up a beading needle, just sort of single threaded, and then a knot at the bottom because these gloves will be lined. And not too long so that you don't tangle it while you sew. So then from behind the back side, you are going to come out right on top of that little mark that you had at 2 inches from the top and in the middle. And we're gonna start at the top of the diamond and pull it through so that your knot lands there. And now I would scoop about 6 beads at a time. And so we're gonna grab 3 of the green. And then my next color I think I'll do is sort of this burgundy color. And I'm gonna grab 3 of those. Okay, so I have on my needle 3 green and 3 of that sort of burgundy. And then I'm gonna pull it down to the base of my thread there. And now that's why this line is really important, because I can kind of hold my beads taut. Okay, I don't want to go too tight that they end up curling, but just taut. And at the very end of that 6th bead, I can poke my needle down on that line and sort of pull it down so that it holds them along our line. Okay, now these are still really wiggly, so we have to sort of secure them, and the way we do that is between every 2nd bead. So I'm going to hold this really close up. So we have 6 here, so I'm going to come up between bead 2 and 3 right in here, right next to the thread, so ideally right on that line that it is covering, and I'm going to go up and over between bead 2 and 3. So I've come out right between beads 2 and 3, and now I'm going to make a horizontal stitch over 2 and 3, again right at that sort of line, so that you won't see your stitch. Like if I put my needle out here more, I would see it's the stitching sticking out. So we really want to tuck our needle kind of right behind the beads, right catching that blue sort of line that was marked, and then just slowly kind of bring in your loop so it lands again between 2 and 3, and if it wants to wiggle over, then you can use your needle to make sure it goes in between the beads you want. So now I've stitched right between those 2 and 3. So now I'm going to go between 4 and 5. So every 2 beads, we're kind of landmarking it there, okay? So that's going to be my next sort of horizontal stitch. So again, going into your beads so that you're coming out. And it might take you a few times to get used to it. I'm going to go right here. And now I'm going to hop over and close to my blue line again between my 4 and 5. Okay, and again, I'm just going to pull this slowly down so I can control where this loop ends up. I'm going to lift it up just slightly here so that there it is. See how I'm making it go between beads 4 and 5. And I pull it tight, and that secures that as well. Okay, my last one I always do on its own. I think it turns out nicer. I do 6 instead of 5 because you might say, well, why don't you do 5? Because my motif is always with 3 of each, so it ends up being a little easier to just put 3 of each color on so you don't mess up your motif there. So my last little bead I'm going to secure on its own, so I'm going between, I guess, 5 and 6. And I think the more times you can do a horizontal stitch over your line, the more stable your beads will be, less wiggly, and you're a nicer result. So I'm going to pull that in as well. Okay, so I have now sort of done my sort of landmarking or my stabilizing stitch between 2 and 3, and then I've done them again between 4 and 5, and my last one as well. So now I'm ready to add a next row. So I tend to go through my last 3 beads. So I come up between the greens and the burgundies, and I'm going to run a running stitch through them. So I'm going to just grab come on, my little needle, there we go. So my needle is going through those 3 beads, okay, because now it's going to attach my next sort of 6. So in my motif again, now I'm going to go with my kind of goldy color. So I'm going to collect 3 golds, 1, 2, 3, okay, and then it goes back to my greens. So 3 greens, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so again, I'm now putting 6 more in place. Okay, and again, I'm pulling them kind of taut to keep that line nice and straight. And I'm gonna landmark my pin or my hand needle, sorry, right on my line, right where the beads end. And so you want to be on a flat surface, not in the air or on your lap, so that the beads really stay smooth. Okay, and now again we have 6, I call them the wiggly beads. So we're going to go between the first, right after the 2 gold beads, between 2 and 3 on the gold. Okay, and the closer to your line, sorry for a second, you couldn't see that because I was looking so closely. The closer to your blue line that you can put your needle coming back through, the better. That keeps that little white thread that we're making horizontal more invisible. And if you were using darker beads, the beading thread comes in a black as well, or on darker suede. Okay, so now I'm going to go across 2 and 3. And I'm going to pull this nice and slowly. So again, the slower you pull it, the more control you have, so that it ends up right between, yeah, it's going right in between the 2 gold colored beads. Okay, now I'll go, so that was landmarked right there. So now we're going to go and do another horizontal between bead 4 and 5, which is, and you can go both ways. Like right now I'm on the left side of my bead. As long as you're doing a horizontal stitch over, it really doesn't matter too much if you go from left to right or right to left. You'll probably have a favorite sort of way to go. So again, I'm guiding it nice and slow so that my horizontal ends up being right between the ones that I wanted. And now one on the last one again. So my needle's coming right between the last two beads and looping right over top. Okay, and then again, we want to add a new row, so I'm going to come out between, yeah, gold and green, somewhere around here. I'm going to run my needle through my green ones, and now I'm ready to add my next 6, which will be gold again. So 3 gold, and then 3 of the burgundy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, perfect. Okay, and we'll just do this last little bit. It's very repetitive from here. So again, I like on a flat surface on a table, kind of push my beads up to the next line, landmark right where my beads ended, right on my blue line, push my hand needle through so that all 6 are in a row. Okay, and then now we're going to start landmarking between 2 and 3. Oh, that one went in really nicely and quick. Okay, and I'm crossing from right to left over the 2 gold. Really slowly so that loop ends up right after 2. There it is. And again, now I'm going to go and landmark between, sorry, I know when I go really closely I blur it a bit, right between 4 and 5. Okay, and pulling it nice and slowly so it ends up right in between those 2 beads. Fabulous. And then our last one. And you'll see my little needle poking through because I wasn't quite happy with the placement, right? So every time you want to make it as close to that blue line as you can so that you don't see your thread. So it's pretty simple, and then you can feel like these are nice and secure. Once you get more rows too, it gets to become quite solid. There's no movement in those beads at all, which is lovely. And so you would continue on, and then next one, it's based on your motif, but I would then, my next row, don't knot off, just come up right next to your last row where gray on this one started, and start adding your next, 6 beads and landmarking them. And then you just get shorter and shorter. The motif comes together pretty quick because this is our longest line. I always start in the middle. It keeps everything centered. So this is our longest line here. The one with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of your colors. And then I would do my 3 other rows on this side, and I would then do my 3 other rows on this side. And then I would decide my gap between my other diamond, and same thing, keep it centered and do my center line. So everything stays really even and you'll get a finished result that you're happy with. So I hope this helps you with the start of beading your gloves and beading and surface embellishment in general.